Welcome everyone, a guy trying here, and today we're going to take a look at building a deck for Teija Nauraa in Altered TCG. I'd like to start off with a quick apology. I really wanted to get this video out last week, but when Equinox dropped the Trial by Frost news, I put this on hold to make a video on that, and didn't finish this in time. But with that, let's get into it. Teija Nauraa are a Muna hero whose ability reads, the first character you play each afternoon gains 1 boost. Because this is such a simple ability that essentially gives us 1/1/1 in value each turn, similar to Sigismar and Wingspan and Kojo and Buddha, there are many different ways to build Teija to fit your playstyle. I'm going to be focusing on a more tempo-oriented build, looking to generate strong value throughout the game and respond to our opponents. The best way to do this is normally through anchoring our first character each day, allowing our boost to double its value as it persists through rest. Let's start with our deck core. These are the cards that I think should be included in every iteration of the deck and should be the baseline for any list. Once we have the core constructed, we'll move on to some options to fill in the remaining slots that can be changed to fit your playstyle or whatever uniques you may own. We'll start with the most simplistic card in the deck. Sneaser Shroom is the first of our self-anchors, being able to be played at any point in the game for some value. Both the common and the rare fit well in this deck, with the rare working like another Dracaena, and the common being a better Spindle Harvester. I'm going to suggest a shifting rarity scale for Sneaser, but there should always be 3 in the deck. Now we move on to some of the best removal in the game. Cloth Cocoon works great for getting rid of permanents, opposing anchored characters, and of course, the dreaded sleeping bureaucrats that populate the current best deck. While you have to pay extra for Aloe Vera's self-anchor, the resupply at noon helps you keep card advantage against other decks. This deck can run out of steam fairly quickly, especially since a lot of our characters stay on board an extra turn, stopping us from playing them from reserve. This can cause some awkward turns, which extra cards in the reserve can help smooth out. Still, I'm only going to put 2 in the core. Lyra Thespian is a card that really surprised me. While I initially thought it worked mainly as a replacement for rare Yong-Su, Thespian actually works better. Because Thespian counts itself when you check for boosted characters, if Thespian is the first character you played that afternoon, it will get Teija's boost and then get 2 more boosts if you have a boosted character from the previous turn. Unfortunately, it does take up a rare slot, so I'm going to put it at a 2 of. Another card that caught me off guard is Cappella Training. We're looking to outvalue our opponents, and this allows us to reduce their card advantage throughout the game. Not only that, but as a 1-cost spell, it allows you to pass priority without developing the board and eating your Teija boost. I wouldn't be surprised if people are skeptical about this card at first. I know I was, but just try it out. I think you'll find it feels good. Like Thespian though, it's going to be a 2 of because it takes up our rare slots. Moving on to our common core, we'll start with Spindle Harvester. Standard self-anchor and a 1-cost that allows us to pass priority. Not too much to say. Still, it's good to have around. Unlike most of our characters, Kodama gains asleep instead of anchored. While this does mean it has a delayed effect on the board state and doesn't double our boost value, it makes up for it with high rate stats. You'll want to refrain from playing this first if you can, just because we have better boost targets. Dracaena functions very similar to rare Sneaser Shroom in that it rewards you the longer you keep it on the board. While the rare version does seem tempting because it grows twice as fast, it sacrifices immediate board presence for potential stats in the future. I think unless you are going full on with the re-anchor game plan, only run the common. Coneman is a big body that anchors itself, but doesn't always feel great. True, they are an overall value of 888 for 5 if boosted by Teija, but the 5 cost just feels brutal, especially since they are tougher to re-anchor than most cards in our deck. I still put 2 in the deck because they do put some good pressure on the board. Yong-Su offers massive stats for its cost, and the required condition isn't too hard to meet, but I find the true strength of Yong-Su is that he's one of our reactive cards. A lot of our cards we want to play first in order for Teija to boost them. This forces us into the offensive position and allows our opponent to play around us. Cards like Yong-Su help us with that though, and allow us to react to our opponent. Muna Druid is fair stats that can combat a lane, and has the upside of being able to anchor a character with its support ability. I'd mainly run 2, just because it doesn't feel as good on the play as other cards. Finishing off our core is Meditation Training. Nothing too fancy going on here, just a spell that anchors a character. Like our other spells, it does allow us to pass priority, which is very helpful in this deck. With that, we have our core completed. You should be able to scan the QR code on the screen to take you to my copy of the deck core on Altered.gg so that you can duplicate and already have the base when you start to finish the deck. As we move on to our options, I'm going to go through them a little differently this time. I've grouped most of the options into packages that indicate their purpose in the deck. Our only standalone card, Mana Reaping, is an extremely strong removal option that can easily help us finish out games. I'm mainly considering the rare for this deck just because the additional use of the card is immensely helpful in late game situations. With our ramp package, Tiny Jinn and Bountiful Meadow both allow us to cheat extra resources for our turns. Tiny Jinn can be boosted by Teija for immediate ramp, but does take up rare slots. Bountiful Meadow is conditional resource cheat, but we have a lot of plants in the deck, so it shouldn't be too bad. It also has the bonus of turning on uniques that require landmarks. Our Colossal package contains our late game powerhouses. You won't want too many of these in your deck just because they can clog up your hand in the early game, but you'll want something from this package so we don't run out of steam at the end. If you're running some cards from the ramp package, you can slot a few more of these in. The Anchor package gives us more options for anchoring our characters so we can recur more value. I'm also going to sneak Spindle Bastion into this package. Even though it doesn't give Anchored itself, it does help your anchored characters from getting removed and gives additional boost value when a card stays on board. Our Retrigger package allows us to reuse on-play abilities such as characters anchoring or boosting themselves. The main issue with these cards is that they are fully reliant on having other cards to allow them to create value, so they can feel clunky sometimes and clog up your hand. And to finish out our options and packages, we have our Card Advantage package. Both Kitsune and Daughter give us bodies that allow us to draw cards to keep up with card advantage, but they also draw our opponent's cards. Which brings us to uniques. Because this deck isn't as strictly defined as other decks, it's hard to really pinpoint what exactly this deck wants for uniques. There are a lot of different options that can fit your playstyle. I'll say look out for Axiom Scramblers with good effects, since that's the only form of Sabotage and Muna, or cards that activate an ability when they or someone else gains a boost. Other than that, there are a lot of options that can slot into the deck. For my deck, I chose these three. Cernunnos is strong stats and can come in for 999 value for 4 from reserve if I have 2 plants out. Lyra Cloth Dancer can be used as an Cappella Training with a body from hand if I give it a Teija boost, but can boost all my plants from reserves and give several characters fleeting if I pull it off. Muna Merchant is just to help me keep up with card advantage and dig through my deck. You'll notice that 2 of my uniques require landmarks for an effect, so I'll put in some Bountiful Meadows to help that. With that all done, this is my finished deck list. The QR code should take you to the deck on Altered TCG, but there will also be a link in the description. Currently, I think Teija Naura's main appeal is that it punishes Waru and Mac a bit more than other decks, just because its value stays over multiple turns. This allows us to not feel the Robin Hood tax as strongly, as well as combating sleeping bureaucrats more than other decks. I also feel that this deck rewards players for more finely tuning it to their playstyle. Because it's not as targeted with its synergies, I feel there are more ways to make this deck your own. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this helpful in some way. If you did, feel free to like and subscribe, but if you made it this far, just know that I'm happy you stayed with me this long. Sorry again for the delay on this video, but I don't want to rush them too much. I've seen the comments on future guides you want, and I've started working on a few. I've also been working on a breakdown for the first big tournament, but at this point I think I'll just wait and combine it with the American tournament happening this weekend. If you have any thoughts or ideas on things you'd like to see, feel free to let me know. That's all for now, but I hope we see each other again.